Great books, great people, and great ideas. Knowledge of these things is critical to becoming a well-educated human being. That's why I'd like to tell you about an easy and enjoyable way for you to listen and learn whenever and wherever you want. And that's through the Hillsdale Dialogues. If you haven't heard about the Dialogues, once a week, Hillsdale College President Larry Arnn joins radio veteran Hugh Hewitt to discuss topics of enduring relevance. From time to time, they also talk about current events, but always with an eye toward more fundamental truths. And they want you to listen in, to join a conversation like no other. The Hillsdale Dialogues are posted every Friday on podcast.hillsdale.edu. That's podcast.hillsdale.edu, or wherever you get your audio.
Welcome to the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast, bringing you insight into classical education and its unique emphasis on human virtue and moral character, responsible citizenship, content-rich curricula, and teacher-led classrooms. Now your host, Scot Bertram.
Thanks for listening. The Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast is part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More episodes at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you find your audio. You also can find more information on topics and ideas discussed on this show at our website, k12.hillsdale.edu. We're joined by Dr. Eric Stennett. He is head of school at Penn Woods Classical Academy in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can find the school at pennwoodsclassical.org. Dr. Stennett, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Hello, everybody.
Appreciate you taking some time to join us here on the show. Before you got to Penn Woods Classical Academy, I know you worked for many years in public school districts. What do you see as the signal differences between those experiences and what you hope for your staff and your students at Penn Woods Classical Academy?
Well, interestingly enough, I think I would lead in by saying, understanding that my career in 30 years in public ed, that whole time I was in that career, in the back of my head and in my heart, I knew something was missing. And it's really not even about bashing public schools, but we weren't successful in the overall picture. We had children just thinking about what's my next job. So one of the largest differences I found when I took this role on in classical ed, and to be honest, it's taken me a while to turn around and see what's in front of me and how wonderful classical education is. But I think the most significant difference for me is the idea that there's a culture in classical schools where children love to learn. I visited a lot of Hillsdale charter schools throughout the country in my preparation, and I find the culture to be amazing. It's what I always knew was missing in the public schools. A place where children come every day, excited to learn. They recite the Constitution. They say the pledge, and they do it from memory. That to me is a significant difference, as the classical schools are mission-driven, focus on their mission, and have a culture that's extraordinary. I wasn't seeing that so much in the public schools, and I think possibly the second most significant difference, Scott, is the idea that in my years in public education, and I started to lose count, but there was a point where we were over 40 different new initiatives. And I found that in the public schools, they were never finding the answer and always trying something new. And I could literally rattle off all the kind of trends that were occurring in public ed. When you come to Hillsdale and when you come to classical schools that are Hillsdale member schools, the tried and true methods are the backbone, and they're timeless and they're traditional, yet they're new and they are highly effective. To me, that is a significant difference. For example, Latin, writing in cursive, phonics. I mean, there's systems out there right now that are just not working, that they got away from phonics that have been disastrous. So, I think those would probably be the two most significant differences in my opinion.
And then perhaps if there's anything you notice as those differences with teachers in the classroom between what you experienced previously and what you experienced at Penn Woods.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I would say this. In both arenas, the most important person in any school, in my opinion, is a talented teacher. The difference between teachers in classical schools and public schools is their foundation for what they do and how they do. You know, when you are trained in a public school from a college of education, they have a tendency to focus on a lot of different ideas that don't center on support that can be measured in the classroom. You know, teachers, they have a tendency to lose sight of why they got into the business to begin with. But what I have found with classical schools, they have a moral imperative where they're the role models in the class and they direct the classroom. Public schools have a constructivist foundation that is student-centered. Classical schools have a teacher-centered instructional process that is highly effective. I feel that is one of the major differences. And while most teachers want children to learn, in the classical schools, the teachers are central as role models for the culture and for showing that virtuous behavior we want to see in the children, but they're also highly dedicated. And I have found that that's something that there's not enough money to pay for.
I think you mentioned this was a little bit of a journey for you. How did you learn about classical education personally and professionally, and what was that journey like?
Oh, so you know, I actually thank God every day that He put classical education and Hillsdale College in my path. You know, when you spend as much time as I did in schools as a principal, trying to lead them with not a lot of success, and not because of the lack of try, but for the lack of a system that looks to find a job for a child versus a Hillsdale school that is educating children so they have the tools for learning. And with the idea that we're training the mind and improving the heart, it was an amazing opportunity that opened my eyes. You know, I'll just tell you a quick story about this that I think is really interesting. I had left public education because I was just not happy. And I saw this job opening for PWCA, Penn Woods Classical Academy, and I decided to interview for it. So when I received the notification for the first round, I actually went on to Hillsdale's site and I started to research, and I found myself not leaving that site for days and days and days. I watched one of the videos on there, and I was so amazed by, oh my goodness, this is what it is. This is education. This is what it's supposed to be. I was hooked immediately. And it wasn't because it's a trend. It wasn't because it's an experiment. It's because it's the right thing to do. It's what education is supposed to be. Train the minds, improve the hearts, and nurture the spirit is in our mission. And that's what I believe. And that's Hillsdale. And it really it turned me around to back into education, reinvoked my spirit, and I just began reading. I read Turley's book. I read all the good Dorothy Sayers. I just started reading and just starting to immerse myself. And it's been an amazing journey so far.
If there are teachers or administrators, leaders who are considering a similar shift, where do you think was the right place to start? And what did you find most effective for learning about this model?
So I would first say to them, if they are even thinking about moving towards classical education in terms of a profession, I would say do it now and do it quickly. It's a movement that's taking hold, and it is what you're going to find. What I found, it's the missing piece in education. It's 100% what education was meant to be, and what this country envisioned for children. And I would say, do a little research. Go on Hillsdale's site, look at the K-12 site, and read. And I can guarantee you, my colleagues in public education that I worked many years with, as I've been calling them and telling about this, they're going to understand why it changed me. I would absolutely recommend that. I would recommend visiting a school, a Hillsdale school specifically, and you can capture the spirit of creating these joyful leaders of tomorrow. I think it'd be an amazing thing for them to do that. And I really encourage them, and call Hillsdale or reach out to one of the heads of schools or headmasters in one of these schools or a fellow teacher in a classical school. And I think that would be very helpful and help them to understand what this is all about.
Talking with Dr. Eric Stennett. He is head of school at Penn Woods Classical Academy in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. What has it been like for you to be a part of a school founding process? How involved were you in getting Penn Woods off the ground, and what did you learn along the way?
So we're going to open fall of 2024, and it's been an amazing experience. I would say a passion and a lot of work, but God has shown us the grace. And it's interesting as we hit obstacles. I find that, there's professionals out there. There's a network that has been supporting us through Hillsdale and other headmasters and other heads of schools. It's an amazing group of people that we're not competing. And, I find that if I can pick up the phone anytime and say, I need help with, and those resources have been amazing. I think the most amazing thing, and I've told my colleagues this, is that, we can call them at any time, Hillsdale K-12. I've been to 2 leader boot camps. I've been to the board training professional development sessions. There's a summer session where all our teachers that we hire will go there and learn classical education and learn how it is to teach in a classical school. Here's the thing. All the years in public education, you would have paid an immense amount of money for that type of support and training. Hillsdale does not charge us. What they expect of us is to be an amazing school. And that support is unbelievable. And I think that's been the easiest part of school founding, is having that kind of network and having that kind of support. But if you are going to start a school, I would start with Hillsdale and get some advice on what that means and start seeking that kind of help.
So you say that was the easiest part. What's been the toughest part along the way?
Boy, honestly, I would say trying to make all the pieces fit and understand. When you start a school from scratch, you're walking into all the different pieces. So for us specifically, because Hillsdale really has a lot of charter schools, we're really the second private Christian school as a member school, and for us, it's about fundraising and being a part of the community and starting to find those avenues to get people to believe in us and understand what we're doing. So it's just about reaching out. It's been difficult at first, but once we've said the word Hillsdale to people, and once they understand what classical education is about, educating them, it takes off. So that initial kind of who are you and what are you about? What is this classical school? What is that? That's been one of the largest things to ever come. But now that we're out there and people know us, it's been a blessing.
I normally ask this question because there sometimes are very interesting stories about how schools are able to find the location, the building for the school. For Penn Woods, how did that come about? Has that been completed? Where are you at in that process?
So we have found a school. We are in Washington County, and we are at 1170 Chestnut Street. We have just finished and made that announcement on our closing. That was a journey. There have been several sites through the years, even before I came on board, that they had been looking for. But we were looking for a place where we could have an impact on all people in the community, not just a place where we weren't thinking about competition, so to speak, with other classical or Christian schools, but being the first Pennsylvania Hillsdale school, it was critical for us to find a location we thought, we could have the biggest impact on the community. And I think we did in Washington, PA. It's a wonderful city that is historically old. And they met us with open arms. And I believe we are in a collaboration with the township and with the county that is really paid off dividends. And we're really excited about this opportunity. So yeah, that was part of our journey, and that they met our vision and they met our mission head on. We're really excited about the opportunity.
What is the vision? How would you describe, specifically the vision you and the founding board have for Penn Woods Classical Academy, and how is it different, and how will it be appealing for parents and students in that area?
So I've had multiple parent information nights, and I go through a series of informational slides where we talk about this at length. And I'm finding that parents are attracted to this because they're like-minded. For example, they're seeking a culture of learning. They're seeking a place where children are educated, but not educated in this juggernaut system. I think they're also looking for a place where they can be a Christian and be happy and be a partner with us in terms of collaboration, not a partnership in terms of we're equals, but in terms of we know that the parents are the number one person responsible for the education of their child. We're here to provide a rich content, liberal arts and science education that we can help parents meet those goals for their children. And I think our vision is to be part of the community and be a beacon of hope. We want children to leave with the tools and that for learning, where they can learn anything at any time they want. We want to be that campus that, Scott, is really connected to the community and be a place where people understand that the children who graduate from Penn Woods will be the next joyful leaders of tomorrow.
In terms of finding teachers and finding those people who are going to work at Penn Woods Classical Academy, what has been the most important aspect that you've looked at as you've looked at candidates who want to join you on this journey?
They have to be candidates that are teachers that ideally have a classical teaching background. But to be honest with you, there's not a lot out there just yet. There's a lot of classical colleges out there that are graduating teachers with a classical background. But to be honest with you, there's a large demand for them. So I think the key is we have to have people open to the idea that they are a lifelong learner and willing to look at classical education and have that desire to learn and that fire to help children and understand that tried and true methods are truly how children learn. And it is critical for us to find those types of teachers. We've been very successful so far in interest. I'm pretty excited about that opportunity. I think our teachers are functional in terms of literacy and cultural literacy. I think we want teachers that understand they are directing the classroom and they need to direct the instruction. And I think if we can find teachers with those attitudes, we will be highly successful. In PWCA specifically, we're looking for teachers that have the Christian foundation and the classical foundation. But if they don't, they have to be open to that idea.
And how can people find out more information about the school and about the journey that Penn Woods Classical Academy has taken to get to a point where fall of 2024 is when it's going to happen?
Yeah, we're very excited, Scott. It's ramping up as we speak. So we have information nights for parents, at least 2 a week at this point, to try to get our message out so parents know what to do and how to enroll. We've already had some applications coming in. We just opened last week the applications. We're already getting a sense of a lot of interest and a lot of people supporting us. But certainly go to our website at pennwoodsclassical.org. All our information is on there. Call me anytime. You can come in and see me individually, or we can set up a meeting with your family just to get our information out. We're trying really hard to reach out at a concrete way to make sure parents know about us. And it's really not about just, hey, we want your kid to come to our school. We really want the message of Hillsdale and classical schools to be out there. I am passionate. I really believe in it, Scott. It's going to change this country. And that's the purpose. We want to find a way that the next children to come out of our school are the next leaders of tomorrow that have the idea of what it means to be a civic-minded leader and to be a joyful learner. It's really important to us.
Dr. Eric Stennett, he is head of school at Penn Woods Classical Academy in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. More information about the school can be found at pennwoodsclassical.org. That's pennwoodsclassical.org. Dr. Stennett, thanks so much for joining us here on the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast.
Thank you, Scott.
I'm Scot Bertram. We invite you to like us on Facebook. Search for Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education. You also can follow us on Instagram at Hillsdale_K12. Hillsdale_K12 on Instagram. Thank you for listening to the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast, part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More episodes at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you find your audio.